Hello everyone and welcome back to part 2 of the Arceus Chronicles review, the latest Pokemon series on Netflix. With me today, we are once again joined by Mannie. How are you doing this week?
Doing pretty good, man. Kind of excited because I got tickets to my first ever WrestleMania next year in April.
Ooh.
So, looking forward to that.
Nice. Do you know where it's located?
Yeah, at the SoFi Stadium.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, that's a really pretty stadium from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So that should be fun.
It's going to be 2 nights, but I'm only going on the second night.
And also for context, if you are listening most recently, this is actually being recorded before a Scarlet and Violet update that comes out later this week, which literally just got announced today. So,
yeah. Do you think this is like the final thing we get?
I think we will probably have like 1 or 2 more.
Yeah.
Because we're like a month out, but I feel like they would still do more information, especially since this was so last minute. I think they might gear up to do a longer one in the future.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, we are here to discuss Pokemon the Arceus Chronicles. Pretty much right after we left off, we were at the end of part 1 from when the series first aired in Japan, and now we're moving on to part 2, which is around the 14-minute mark if you guys are watching on Netflix. And our heroes basically see a bunch of energy come out from what looks like Mount Coronet. They run off chasing their Pokemon. Now, last time, Manny, where did you think they were going?
When they left off?
Yes, when they said, let's go check it out, and they ran after their Pokemon. Did you have a specific location?
No, I just thought they were just gonna like randomly get there somehow. Cause
Okay.
that's how the cartoons work.
True. Though, when we see the energy and the fact that's coming from Mount Coronet, I thought, oh, they're going to go to Mount Coronet now. But according to Bulbapedia, well, first of all, before we get there, the part 2 starts basically with our heroes going to a cave that's an entrance to a mine, all in their regular outfits again, no longer in their old Hisui outfits, and they just hear stuff happening inside the mountain. According to Bulbapedia, it says they're in Oreburgh City.
Really?
Yeah. It says Ash and his friends have arrived in Oreburgh City to investigate the strange disturbance that their Pokemon felt. And that technically makes sense, that because they're in a mine area, but Oreburgh City is like literally across the region from where they are. Like there's at least halfway across the region.
That's interesting, because like there's no hint as to where they're at. It just feels like they just went up to the mountains.
Yeah. That's my other question, is Canalave City in the anime, when we last saw it, was basically an island that they had to take a blimp to. I was like, okay, maybe they're going to go to Iron Island or something. Like they'll say that's like closer to Mount Coronet or something. Or they'll show them going to the mainland. And they just, like you said, cartoon style, just get teleported all the way to Oreburgh City. According to Bulbapedia, again, like there's nothing I can see in the show that specifically says what city they go to. So, judging from the mines, that might be where they're getting Oreburgh City, but it is just really random that they go here specifically.
Yeah, and how would Bulbapedia know that that's what they're at?
It could be that. It could be a random mine. Either way, I'm not particularly pleased with how they're randomly in this spot. And that isn't Mount Coronet, because that seems like the natural place they would go. So, That's just the thing that threw me off at the beginning of this part.
Yeah. Before we go on ahead, so last time we had kind of like debated about whether the kimonos were borrowed or bought or rented.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the sub, and they were rented.
Oh, so they actually say rented in the sub.
Dawn tells them that she rented the kimono.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they kept it in the Japanese. That's okay. Okay.
Yeah, they kept it in the Japanese, and then in the Japanese, it's called the flame plate, right?
Yep.
It's called the fireball plate in the Japanese version.
Okay. See, I think that might just be a naming thing and less of a localization thing. Like, Ultra Balls have a name that start with an H in Japanese.
Yeah, the hyperball.
Hyperball, yeah, right. So, okay, that's acceptable. But the red thing is an interesting little localization difference between the two. But yeah, that's good to know. And as we get here, there is a, like, screeching sound, and out from the mountain explode a bunch of Chingling and a Bronzong that are just sparking with this weird purple energy. My immediate thought, because this is the Legends Arceus tie-in special, that they were alpha Pokemon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like before all that happens, like in the last episode, there's like a red aura beaming out in waves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I could see why you would think they were alphas.
Yeah, did you have any theory, like, what was going on here? Besides, like, oh, we know the wave's out, but, like, how specifically the Pokemon are affected?
No, I just thought it was just, like, in the previous episode, like, the 3 main Pokemon for the main characters also felt those waves.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't get affected at all.
You're right. That is weird. Maybe it's if they are at Mount Cornet that it affects them because of something we'll see in a few seconds, but they're also not at Mount Cornet, seemingly. Like, they didn't go there, at least according to Bulbapedia, and it doesn't explicitly say where they are, so I don't know. But that is an interesting observation that the Pokemon that they have didn't get affected. Okay. The only other thing I can think of is both Bronzong and Chingling are psychic types.
Yeah, how would that... Because it was from a flame plate.
Mm-hmm.
And they're psychic.
Right. No clue. So, moving on then, they're like, oh, they're out of control, what's going on here? Because they start fighting each other. And Dawn is like, alright, Piplup, use Whirlpool. And immediately just traps all these Pokemon, and then when it drops them out of the Whirlpool, they're like calmed down. They no longer look like they're out of control, and one of them is injured, and they go up to it. What did you think of Dawn's approach here?
It felt like the Dawn that I was accustomed to in the Japanese version, because I think she was more like level-headed in that version.
Yeah, I do like that they skip what they sometimes do, which is like trying to talk to the Pokemon, saying, "What's wrong, Chingling?" or "What's wrong, Bronzong?" And she's like, "Nope, okay, Whirlpool, go."
Yeah.
And then we just move on. Though it is a little aggressive, I would say.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, that ought to like cool them down, right?"
Yeah. She's like, nothing like water to cool you down or refresh you, basically.
Yeah, because that was pretty like quick thinking.
Yeah, definitely not the worst, just a little aggressive, I'll say.
Yeah, but would it have hurt less than a Thunderbolt? Probably, right?
That's true. If you're comparing those two, yeah, I'd go with a Whirlpool. Like have like something else that in their party that has like a heal bell or aromatherapy or something like that be used, and that would be a cool usage of that. But this was okay, so I can go with it.
Yeah.
And once that happens, they go up to the Chingling, which is injured, and then I'm like, I blinked and I'm like, what happened? Because suddenly they're in a blue crystallish space that's no longer wherever they were before, and all the wild Pokemon are gone. It's just them.
That poor Chingling.
Right? It's like, oh, bye, Chingling.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere appear all the Lake Guardians. So it seems like Mesprit, Uxie, and Azelf teleported them here, maybe?
Because we saw in the last episode they were called upon and then they just like left.
Right. And they're like...
So this is probably them finally reaching where Arceus sent them.
Right. They have a team meeting and they're like, all right, go like... go check in on the heroes from last time or something. And that's how we find them. And Go takes his sweet time checking each of them out in the Pokédex. What'd you think about that?
I learned something because I know, like, in English, they're considered lake spirits.
Lake Guardians?
But, yeah, guardians, but their Pokédex entries in the Japanese, they're considered gods.
That makes sense.
They were described as, like, the god of, what was it, wisdom, knowledge, and...
willpower.
Emotions? Willpower, there you go. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Wonder why they would have changed that.
Well, they're still beings of those things. I guess they just aren't referred to as gods in the English version.
But it's funny because it wasn't Don, right, doing the Pokédex?
No, it was all Go.
Because you know how in Sinnoh was mostly her?
Mm-hmm.
So this time it was... But it would make sense because this is like his first time seeing them.
Right. Though, what's interesting is that I believe this is the first time we actually get Pokédex entries for them in the anime.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, as far as I can tell, they didn't get Pokédex entries until this season, which is kind of interesting. But in some ways, I kind of like that more because they're more mysterious. And this felt a little weird because they were just slowing down the pace to do this when they're like, hey, we teleported you here to give you a message. And they're like, oh, it's okay, you can scan us right now.
Yeah.
So, not the worst, it's just an interesting choice here. And when he's finishing scanning them, they're like, oh, they've got amazing powers, and Piplup and Pikachu are excited to see them. And they start swirling around in front before they open a, like, yellow space that I thought was, like, the inside of the volcano where Heatran was. But no, it's actually where Arceus is.
Same, because it looked like fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arceus just like showed up there, but I guess it could have been like a bit of a premonition.
Right, I'm like, are you showing Arceus's location, or is it like a vision? It's just really weird because I think this is my problem with this scene, is that I'm confused at what is happening exactly, because it seems like you're teleporting them to Arceus and then it like goes away. Like, what?
Yeah. With no context whatsoever.
Yeah, they literally say, that's Arceus. It tried to tell us something. And this is actually a fun detail. Ash recognizes Arceus, which technically means the Jewel of Life is now canon, because that's the only other place he would have seen it. So, another movie confirmed.
But, like, the weird thing is, because Go is like, how can you guys be so calm at this like time? And Ash is like, oh, because we helped it? But he goes straight to like Dialga and Palkia.
Yeah, right? They're like, they don't talk about Arceus. They talk about the Dialga and Palkia adventures that they had when they were originally traveling in Sinnoh.
So that was just random. Like, yeah, like, We helped Dialga and Polygon, but what does it have to do with Arceus?
Right? Like, if all of them were there, then that would make more sense. But again, this... At most, it kind of seems like Ash is trying to say, oh, we've dealt with legendaries before. Chill. This is nothing new. But his explanation isn't very helpful.
Yeah.
And then Dawn's also pretty calm, except she goes to pick up the Chingling, and it's like, oh, we need to take it to a Pokemon Center because it got injured. So they're like, forget the fact that God just tried to FaceTime us. We need to go and help this Chingling.
Well, yeah, because that was their main priority before Arceus decided to show up and interrupt them.
I guess it's... I would kind of drop that priority, though. It was like, hey, God just tried to call me. Hold up. And then we cut back to the Team Galactic base where Saturn gives a speech telling them we're going to put our plan into action and bring back Master Cyrus as rulers of the new world. Then this is why I actually watched up to this part originally, because the narrator has a sequence here where it kind of recaps what happens in the Diamond and Pearl series. But the actual end apparently is right before our heroes get to this mine area. But what did you think about this recap, since you haven't actually seen those episodes in the original, right?
No, but I knew of what had happened because I watched, what was it called? The Pokemon Generations, the shorts.
Nice. Okay.
When they launched. So that's how I kind of found out about the Diamond and Pearl story, because I think it focused on Cyrus.
Right. I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm not entirely sure, but that sounds about right.
I don't know how I remember those episodes. They were so long ago.
Yeah, they're 10 years old.
Yeah, I just remember that part. Oh, I think because of how dark that story was.
Mm-hmm.
Basically. So yeah, I knew it, but it was really cool to see them recap it. Yeah,
it was nice. Some details I noticed is that Charon is there, who is a scientist that appears on part of Team Galactic's team in Platinum and also in the original Diamond and Pearl, but he's nowhere here, and I'm very confused because he's also very involved with Heatran in the original game. And Cynthia's there. So
yeah.
She's in the flashback. I don't know. Well, she gets mentioned one more time, so we'll talk about in a sec. But as Team Galactic's preparing to do more stuff, we cut to a Pokemon Center where on the news they're showing all these different Pokemon on Mount Coronet that are in pain, and they're saying that there's unusual activity going on the mountain with these Pokemon. And some people are wondering if there's a connection between this activity and the deviations in the magnetic field. So that's where my theory was before, in saying that maybe it Pokemon are generally affected by that energy blast that came from Team Galactic, but maybe only the ones on Mount Coronet are going wild. But again, in the news coverage, none of the Pokemon are acting out. They're all just kind of like trying to brace themselves, but no one's attacking each other like the Chingling and Bronzong.
Could it be animal instinct? Maybe they felt threatened, but not really knowing what the threat is.
I think so. It's just weird because they go and check out the energy, and there isn't a chaos of all these Pokemon fighting each other. It's just this one group, and the only other ones we see are not doing anything. They're just kind of oh, I'm in pain, but I'm not going crazy. So I wonder if there was supposed to be something else there, or they just cut that plot line that there's going to be wild Pokemon.
Could be, yeah, because they made a big deal about the seismic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or the magnetic stuff.
Yeah, the magnetic thing, but there really wasn't really a follow-up to it.
Right. Instead, what we get is someone walking out from the Pokemon Center back saying, Chingling is all better now. And they turn around and gasp. Because
Brock has returned.
Woo! He's back!
Yeah. So the Japanese version of the episode has an opening title sequence.
Oh.
And I guess, I don't know if like the thumbnails on Amazon, on the Amazon Prime version, like spoil anything, but the opening sequence spoils that Brock is there. Because he's seen. He's shown in like the opening sequence that they show, where they just show off like the characters, like they show Ash, Go, Dawn, and then they show Brock like at the end. So
okay.
If there were kids watching it, they got spoiled that Brock was going to
Hey, some kids have literally never seen Brock, so they're like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're probably like, who's this?
But yeah, he is here, and it's great to see him. Apparently, they dropped off the Chingling at the front with Nurse Joy, and then Brock went to take care of it, because they haven't seen them until right now, seemingly.
Yeah. So do you think he was helping out other Pokemon affected, or just a regular Pokemon that needed a checkup?
I think just the regular ones, because so far, like, there's no mention of any other Pokemon affected. What happens here is just Dawn and Ash try explaining what's happening to him at the same time. And Brock's like, I can't understand you. And then Go just steps in and he's like, hey, let me introduce myself. I'm like, Go, chill.
Yeah, why would he have been like super excited to introduce himself to Brock?
Apparently, he says that he's heard a lot about Brock from Ash. And that's kind of all we get, is just that, like, Brock says, oh yeah, Ash and I used to travel a lot together. And then he goes like, yeah, he told me first you were a gym leader, then the Pokemon breeder, and now you're a doctor in training. And I don't know, I guess he just likes meeting Ash's friends?
I guess. Yeah, because I didn't really realize that up to this point. I don't think Brock has ever been in Journeys, except for like flashbacks.
Right. What is really cool to see as well is that he has a newly evolved Pokemon with him.
Yes. His Happiny is now... It's a Blissey, right?
Yes!
Yeah, okay. I don't know why I thought it was a Chansey. But yeah, it's a Blissey now.
Yep, I made it way all the way to its final form. So it is awesome. I love that his Apidi is now a Blissey here, because it shows that it evolved with friendship, and it's also a perfect fit for him as a doctor.
Uh-huh.
But of course, I know what you're excited about is his other Pokemon.
Out of nowhere pops out Dr. Krogunk with his little hat.
Yeah!
Yeah.
It's great. What'd you think about this moment?
What a specimen that Krogunk is. It was cool. I mean, because it just, it did its thing. Like, how it used to pop out of the Pokeball. It came out just to say hello.
Yeah.
I was expecting, like, maybe, like, his Sudowoodo to also appear.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing Krogunk was a cool cameo, especially because what happens later down in the episode.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good setup. I'm glad that we show him here before that, though. And of course they say hi. Krogunk tries acting cool, as always, when Dawn says hello to it. And yeah, it's just adorable. They each have their little hats. Then Brock says that it seems like Chingling was affected by the warping magnetic field. And Dawn's then like, let's go to Mount Cornet. We need to find the cause. And Brock's like, we will. Leave everything to me. So they just cut to the chase here. And this is where I had to rewind like 3 times and see like, what the heck are they riding?
Ooh, the hoverplane?
Is that what it is?
I think it is. I think it's like a small hover jet or like a hover car. Like a futuristic...
Yeah.
Well, would it be
But
depicted
why?
as like a flying car in the future? I mean, how else were they gonna get there? Are they gonna run again?
No, you know what I thought? I was like, this is the moment where I pretty much accepted this isn't really a Legends Arceus tie-in. This is just a Diamond and Pearl epilogue. Because if you want to get or travel anywhere in Sinnoh and tie it into the games, they would have used Braviary, Stantler, or Weirdeer.
Yeah, but I mean, looking back on it, I think these episodes came out before the game.
Right, but it's still supposed to promote it. Like the whole first part, presumably when they're showing all the starters and the ancient Sinnoh was for that. So that's where I'm like, there could have been better choices here that were more thematically relevant, at least.
Well, you got your cameo in the first episode.
That's true, but like, don't you want more?
Of course, I wanted more. Will, remember I thought they were gonna travel back in time.
Yeah,
and instead we
get a hover car that comes out from the ground, and Brock's like, "Oh yeah, I take house calls in this." I'm like, "What? What is happening?" Like, it's just the most random thing.
Also, why would Don suspect that Mount Coronet was the source?
Yeah, that's the other part that's confusing to me, is that they literally go to the source 5 minutes before this. And then like, oh no, it's actually Mount Coronet. They basically had to run past Mount Coronet to get to Oreburgh City, if that's where they were. So, yeah, that's another good question. I'm like, why do you know this now? Oh, I guess they do see it on the news. But I honestly think they could have just skipped the whole Chingling and Bronzong scene and just come to the Pokemon Center to find Brock. I would have way less questions then, at least. But True. Either way, they're flying high now, and Brock's like, "Yep, we're going to Mount Coronet." Team Galactic is going full throttle as they reveal a cannon, an energy cannon, from their base that is pointed toward the sky above Mount Coronet. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going, because then they pull out a tube to cover the flame plate so that they're siphoning and pretty much condensing energy for this to shoot up there. And I'm like, okay, I see what they're going for. It looks like they're trying to make the space that you see in Hisui with like the rift in the sky.
Yeah, so my hypothesis was correct. They needed a plate to power up a machine.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You got it. And then as they are going up there, we cut back to our heroes who are in the car. And Brock's like, let's see, the message wasn't from the Lake Guardians, but from Arceus, right? And Dawn's like, yep, you're right. Oh, I should transmit all of this to Cynthia, so see if she can help out on this too. So
her handy dandy Poketch came back.
Yeah, I love the Poketch. She has a picture of Cynthia on it. Tell me, Manny.
Yeah.
Can the Poketch make phone calls?
I do not believe it can.
As far as we can tell, they get something later that does let them make phone calls, but it's not a Poketch. In at least Sinnoh.
Okay. And I mean, it's also safe to assume she doesn't have like a Rotom Dex, right?
Yeah.
She could have called her on that.
Go and Ash both have one, right?
Yeah, but would they have Cynthia's number?
Ash might. Either way, it's kind of weird that Dawn's like, let me call her from my Pokédex. I'm like, maybe you got this upgraded off screen, but girl, there are 2 other people here who have literal phones on them. So, I don't know. It's kind of a weird choice, but I also don't know what she means by transmitting. It's not like she's calling?
No, I think it was like, when you... Because usually transmit is like sending it to her, but not as in a call. Like only she can see it and not like give feedback back to Dawn.
Kind of like a live stream?
Yeah. Or in a sense like a voicemail.
Yeah, like the only app that I see them actually doing this with in the game or the show is the map, where you can like see your location and find items. Like, oh, maybe she's like doing share my location with Cynthia or something.
She would have said it, right? Like, oh, let me tell Cynthia where we are.
Right. Like, did she say anything different in the sub?
No, she was just like, let me just transmit this.
Okay. Yeah, that's weird. Like, you're not talking to her. Like, do you have your data on the Pokédex and that's what you're sending her? Like, it's just kind of a weird decision there.
Yeah.
I feel like someone decided, oh, let's like call back to the Pokédex and forgot how it functions. This actually gets brushed over pretty quickly, though, because we cut back to Team Galactic, which is saying the plate beam is standing by. They're checking that everything is operational. And then again, we see Saturn use Magma Storm from Heatran to power up the plate. And instead of sending out an energy wave like last time, they are able to harness the energy and then instead shoot a beam out that starts to make the sky look a little bit like old Hisui does.
Yeah, and it gives them hope when they see that there's a bit of a result.
Right.
So they decide more power.
Yeah. It's literally more power. And I thought this moment was weird because it's already working fine. It's not like you were having insufficient power. So I was like, okay, sure. And then our heroes see the beam, so Brock's like, alright, let me fly in that direction then. And they reveal that the base is located at the foothills of Mount Cornet, to be precise. And Jupiter's like, yep, the beam's expanding at a rapid pace. And then Saturn lets out more power from Heatran, turning the flames blue. And things go poorly.
Yeah, but they get warned, but they choose to ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's like, no, like, you're gonna overload it. It's like, overload? What is that?
Yeah, I think Jupiter is the one who's like...
Yeah, she tells them. And they're like, no, don't ruin this for us.
Right, they're like, we're so close. And I'm like, you were close before. You didn't need more power. Like, what? You could have just kept doing what you were doing at your normal pace and you would have been fine, probably. But, no, the crystal starts overloading the machine as well. Starts reversing power?
Yeah. Maybe the energy from the portal recoiled and made it come back stronger?
Maybe. It's very weird. Like, I would have been fine if it just, like, exploded. But they make it very clear, like, oh no, the energy came back. Which doesn't make any sense to me. But that seemingly is what happens. There's a bunch of energy from the flame plate that hits Heatran and throws it against the wall. And then we get a huge explosion of blue smoke everywhere. The beam stops and the portal above Mount Cornet seemingly disappears. And all we're left with is a glowing white flame plate and an upset Heatran that is on fire.
Did it also get corrupted, or was it just mad that it was hit?
That's my question also. I'm kind of thinking it's just enraged and maybe out of control.
Yeah. Because it didn't have any of like the energy that the Chingling and Bronzong had.
Right.
In its normal form, but it looked super upset.
Yeah, and it was just like covered in fire. And Saturn tries to call it back to the Pokeball, the Dust Ball specifically, but he drops it and it melts because of the heat. And then everyone's like, evacuate or retreat. And people are just running in every direction. I'm like, oh, they do not have an evacuation plan. Good job, Team Galactic.
There was even one grunt that like stopped in place.
Yeah!
Kind of like thought about it. It was like, oh no, never mind. I'm going.
Yeah, it's like just the worst fire safety I've seen. And Heatran then walks over to the flame plate, opens its mouth and swallows. And I'm like, what?
Same. In my head, I was asking myself, why would it do that?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I thought that it was under like control, or it was affected as well, but you just couldn't see like the red eyes or the the purple electricity that the other Pokemon had.
Yeah,
because it just goes up to it and it like swallows it, but there isn't a reason given as to why.
It's just really hungry, apparently, from using Magma Storm so much. It's just like, this looks tasty. And then it starts glowing even more and basically turns into a demon made out of fire, is what came to mind. While all this is happening, all the Galactic Commanders are talking about how what's happening to Heatran, and then Saturn says maybe it's because of its ability Flash Fire, and it tried to absorb the energy, but it was too powerful because it's from the Flame Plate, which is a really strong thing. And it brought forth a colossal change in Heatran. And then, before we even have time to process that, Heatran lets out a beam from its mouth that goes to the spot in the sky that they were aiming at before, and the portal reopens. And just stays open, like it's just one shot, and it isn't like maintained. And then we see that inside of it is the flame plate just glowing with energy.
Yeah. So what is Flash Fire? What does that do?
Yeah, good question. So Flash Fire is an ability in the game that if a Pokemon with this ability is hit by a fire type move, it doesn't take damage, and instead its fire type moves become stronger.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Now that I know that, I can see why Heatran's like kind of got like a bit of a boost.
Yep. It definitely explains the power boost in a normal setting.
Mm-hmm.
And why it would be overwhelmed if maybe it had a lot, if we're going by anime rules. But it doesn't necessarily explain why it causes it to eat the plate.
Yeah, that's still left unanswered, unless it was like a lust for more power.
Maybe, yeah.
Because would Pokemon know about like the plate's special ability? Like, because you know how like, you give it to a Pokemon to hold, it boosts that specific typing.
I don't know. That is a good question. I think it could be either. Because it's Heatran and it's a legendary, I could see it maybe being more aware. But it was also just caught so easily, it doesn't seem like it would. So,
yeah.
It might just be an instinct thing, honestly.
Mm-hmm. there's so many questions. Because
Yeah.
why would it want to eat it? Why would it want to shoot at the sky?
Mm-hmm.
Was it under the influence of something else? And why did the plate cause it to change in form and shape?
Yeah. It feels almost like what you were saying before, that it's under control, but it seems to be controlled by the plate, because they make it very clear, like, oh, the beam came from the plate, and the plate seems to still want to open up that gateway. But
why would a plate
yeah,
want to open up? Like, is it rebelling against Arceus?
right. Like, in the Jewel of Life, it's kind of established that the plates are part of Arceus itself. So maybe it's trying to return to Arceus? But it does feel weird. It's not clear enough for me to accept that.
And again, why isn't Arceus coming here
Yep.
to prevent its plate from being eaten?
Right. Why is Arceus just not intervening is the biggest question so far.
Yeah.
But you know who is intervening?
Those meddling kids.
Yep, the twerps are back as they see a huge forest fire coming from Heatran's direction as it starts walking toward Mount Cornet, and Pokemon are just running everywhere, and they somehow recognize Heatran. Okay, this is an interesting connection, though, I will say. I don't know how the heck they recognize it, but the fact that Ash knows Heatran is another reference, I think, to the movie where he first saw Heatran. Though I think he does meet it in the show itself later on.
But Go's the one who calls it out.
Oh, it is Go? Okay, that's unacceptable, man. Okay.
Go somehow.
Yeah. He somehow recognized this huge on fire ball is Heatran. It looks very bright, and as it keeps walking, it like roars into the sky. Our heroes try like coming up behind it. Team Galactic does see our heroes riding alongside it. And then Brock flies too close to it for some reason, just to show that it's really hot. And then as they get in front of Heatran's path, they are trying to see like, oh, what do we do here? How do we stop it? And Dawn's like, we need water. And Piplup's like, yeah. And Ash says, time for a water-type team-up. I thought that was the silliest line so far.
Definitely was.
Okay, great. It's not just me. I'm just like, why did you say it that way? Just say like, I'm gonna bring out Dracovish or whatever. But before they even do that, Brock says, wait, the situation is too big. This is beyond the scope of a normal Pokemon battle. So we need a plan. What did you expect Brock's plan was gonna be here?
My first thought was, why is it too big?
Yeah.
Second, I honestly had no idea what he would suggest for a plan.
Right, like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I watched it in, like, the entirety, like the Netflix version. So by this point, I was completely, like, into what I was watching. For me, it wasn't just like, oh, okay, well, what could the plan be? It was more like, okay, what's gonna happen right now?
Yeah, and before we even get a suggestion here, Toxicroak appears out of nowhere and fires a sludge bomb at them, which they're like, ah! And then, with the smoke clearing, Croagunk just pops out, and I love how it just goes in for a poison jab.
What a boss Croagunk is.
Except it immediately stops. Like, it tries once, and then it gives up.
I think it was one of those, like, back off.
Maybe, yeah. But from what we've seen in the past, like, they've gone head to head at the museum and stuff like that, and it's very intense combat. But here was kind of just like a punch, and then it's just like, alright. I was like, aww.
It's crazy how Croagunk senses it.
Yeah. Every time. Team Galactic then lands in their helicopter behind them and says, get off my turf, by sending out Porugly and Skuntank. And they don't... Okay, here's the thing. They don't even battle. They just send them out and they're just like... talking. Brock basically just says, oh, it's Team Galactic. Like, the police should have broken you up already. And Mars literally says, thanks for the worthless explanation. Like, that's it? You're not going to tell us, like, why they reformed or how they got out?
Yeah. Oh, man. This episode is full of so many, like, plot holes.
And we're not even finished yet, but Ash is like, you're the ones. You did that to Heatran's. Like, yeah, yep, okay, you're catching up. Go's like, what are you guys after? Saturn's like, I see no reason to answer that. And then we cut to Heatran, who is heating up once again. The flame plate starts glowing one more time. We get another look at Arceus, sensing that something's going on, which again implies maybe that it can sense what the flame plate is up to. But instead, again, of intervening, it sends out Mesprit, Azelf, and Yuxi one more time. And this time Brock's here, and Brock's like, oh cool, look, here they are.
Is there like a lore behind that as to why Arceus sends out the spirits before it does anything itself?
I don't think so. They might be connected to the original Arceus event, but I think they're just trying to connect some of the legendaries in Sinnoh. And it kind of makes sense that they would refer to Arceus instead of Giratina, Dialga, or Palkia as their, like, master, or the Pokemon that they listen to. And they circle it, and Saturn's like, oh, are they trying to stop it? And we're like, oh, we have no idea. They're literally just circling around Heatran for some reason, not doing anything. Instead, Heatran starts heating up again, and you see the flame plate inside of it still glowing. So the Lake Guardians kind of back off and just watch as it transforms again. And this is where I would at least call it the lava form of Heatran, which looks more like Heatran, but now literally all just molten lava.
Yeah, because that thing I think stuck with me more than the original form it took on.
What'd you think about the transformation?
I liked it. I thought it was cool. It adds more tension to the, I guess we can call this the climax.
Yeah, we're literally at the halfway point of the special. I would like it more if it hadn't transformed into fire before.
Why is that?
The connection would be more obvious, where it's like, oh, the flame plate can transform Pokemon, apparently. But there didn't seem to be a reason for why it transformed them again.
Maybe could have gotten more power?
Maybe, but like there wasn't really a reason for it right now. So it just felt odd to me, at least.
Could the heat plate have sensed Arceus' presence and maybe that caused it
I guess
to kind of react?
Potentially. It just, again, it doesn't really explain it very well. Like, it didn't really explain the first time. It was just like, I ate it, it transformed. Like, if it was being attacked or there was something that made it really clear that it just needed more power here, I would accept it more. But it kind of just feels like they needed a climax to this episode, or like a cliffhanger.
And this form is, I guess we can guess, the premonition that they had seen?
Like, yeah, I'm confused about that too. Is it a premonition they saw, or were they just trying to see Arceus in this weird orangey space?
I mean, my guess was that it was telling them something was going to happen.
Maybe. It was just like being very vague.
Yeah, because even Brock alluded to it, like it came from Arceus itself.
Right.
But it could be that Arceus was showing them like, hey, something's about to happen. Because the color scheme was pretty similar to this form of Heatran.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's when I kind of put like one and one together, and I was like, oh, I guess it was warning them about this form, or this was about to happen.
Yeah.
But if it knew it, why not stop it?
Also, in the movie, Arceus can talk to people telepathically.
Yes, because that's what legendaries do in the movies.
At least mythicals, because Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, all of those actually never talked. It was like Shaman or Darkrai.
But Lugia did.
Lugia did, that's true. But for the most part, it's always like a mythical that talks, in the later movies at least. But now, for some reason, Arceus does not want to talk to them. It just wants to be very vague.
Yeah.
And this is also where the episode ends. So, you want me to make some predictions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. First, what do you think will be the plan that Brock was about to propose?
Okay, this actually is much harder than the last one. Because this form is just throwing me off. Like, if it's a more classic anime approach, I could see them using their Pokemon, but because it's journeys and it's so special, I don't actually see them doing that. Like, they just want to keep it as minimal as possible. I feel like they're going to discover the plate, and they're going to try to find a way to get it out of Heatran. I just don't know how. Like, I'm hoping the Lake Guardians help, but I don't... Like, if they had interfered before it had turned into molten lava, I would have been like, yep, Piplup uses Whirlpool or Hydro Pump or something, and they, like, cool it down just enough to get the plate or something. But now it's like, it leveled up again, and they haven't even done anything to it yet. Maybe a Cynthia shows up? They just said they're transmitting to her. I just don't know if he shows up in the next part or the fourth part. And I don't know. It actually is an effective cliffhanger, I will say that, because the dust balls melted, it just transformed again, and now the Lake Guardians are here, but like we've been saying the whole episode, Arceus has literally not done anything useful so far. It's just been very vague with its communications and had the Lake Guardians go and do stuff for it, but it actually hasn't done anything itself. So, I don't know. It is a good question. That's as much I can do with predictions right now.
Okay. Do you think Heatran will go berserk and attack everybody, including Team Galactic?
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't done that already, actually.
And do you think the Hisuian starters will save the day? Because apparently they don't exist anymore. The kids just
no, I think we're never going to talk about Hisui again this episode. The special, I think, literally has nothing else to do with Hisui. Like, that's where it's leaving me right now. Do you want to go ahead and give your rating?
Sure. What did I give the last one? A 6.5, right?
I think you gave it a 5.
No, I gave it a 5.
Yeah.
I gave it a 5. Yeah. Yeah, because I said, like, as a first episode, it was, like, a good introduction, but it didn't really have much, because it was pretty slow. But things picked up here. And you gotta give extra points for flying cars.
Okay.
And also, I think one of your predictions was mentioned from last week's episode. I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't. What was it?
They had mentioned that I think Heatran wanted to go to Spear Pillar.
Oh, I didn't say Heatran would. I just said, like, we're going to end up there. But I guess we still haven't gone there quite yet.
Yeah, but it was mentioned.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Dawn does say, like, oh, it looks like it's headed towards Spear Pillar, which is where they met Dialga and Palkia last time.
So where is that located?
That's at the very top of Mount Coronet.
So it is at Mount Coronet?
Yep.
Okay, because I was about to say they're probably going to fast travel again. Okay. yeah, so now that we're like things have picked up, I'll give it a 6.5, 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah, things are picking up. Again, I was very into the episode by this point already. My eyes were essentially glued to the screen because I was anticipating what was going to happen. Though we mostly got like Heatran walking.
Yeah.
For the majority of the episode. And not really that much action either. I think a 6.5 would probably give it justice.
Okay. So you are right. Things are picking up, and I think that's a nice contrast to the first part where things were pretty slow for the most part. But I also dislike it for that reason because the pacing feels really off. There's so many things that happen in like tiny moments. Like they opened up the gate in the sky again in like 2 seconds, and I was like, oh, okay. That came back immediately. They're just literally teleporting all over the place, and it's funny you gave them points for the flying car. I'm actually going to take away points for the flying car because it just feels too convenient. Like I know they're trying to do the plot, but I felt like they could have done it in a better way. That's not like, oh, here's a random futuristic piece of technology that you're gonna use and it's gonna take you places. Like, I just wish they could have executed so much better. And again, if they were trying to continue some of the themes of Legends Arceus from the first part, I felt like they could have done like Braviary or something, or like tie it to the festival. Like, that festival is gone. Like, they are never going back there as far as I'm concerned. I honestly, when I first watched this, I was like, okay, this one I do like more. I was thinking about giving it a 6. But after talking about it and just like seeing how weirdly stitched together so much of it is, I just found it really annoying that they weren't taking their time here after they took so much time in the first one, just slowly moving through things that are like gone. Like, you could literally start here at part 2. You would need like a 2-sentence summary of the first part. And I'm just very I'm very apprehensive about where it's going to go, given that these are the first 2 parts of this special. So, with that said, I'm going to give this a 4. I honestly did want to like it, and originally was, and then seeing how it plays out and talking through it, I'm like, what is happening? But you know, hopefully it starts to make more sense next time. And we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Hopefully you enjoyed the other half.
Yeah, we'll see. It's halfway through. Things could turn around.
Yeah, we'll see how many plot holes they have.
Like, just the fact that we don't know where they were at the very beginning is like a big red flag to me. Like, what? What's the point of this? But yeah, those are my thoughts. And Manny, thank you so much for being here again.
Always a pleasure.
Of course. I'm eager. Your enthusiasm kind of balances out my pessimism with this, and it's a good balance there. But yeah, I have been Will, and you've been listening to Sights on Sinnoh as we do our Pokemon, the Arceus Chronicles review. This has been part 2, and if you want to subscribe to the channel, you'll get alerted next week when we go over part 3. And feel free to share your comments below as well if you've watched this, if you have the whole thing, or you're kind of going at our pace as well. We'd love to know your thoughts too. Again, we're just sharing what we know or what we feel. So if you have any other differing thoughts, we'd love to see those as well. And who knows, we might even get to read them next time if we get a chance to look at those beforehand. But yeah, I've been Will again.
My name is Manny.
And next time we'll see if we say hello from Hisui. But for now, see you in Sinnoh.
Goodbye from the mines.
No! Why are you in the mines?
Bulbapedia assumed that's where it was.
Fair.